Happy 2019 planting season to everyone. Larry Gertz, Regional Manager with 360 Yield Center. Encouraging you during this busy spring season to find some time during scouting or while you're looking at emergence or planning what you're going to do for weed management along the way, to pay attention to the corn residue left in the field from last year's crop or from crops that would have been years prior to that. So here I am standing in a field that would have been soybeans in 2018. It was corn in 2017. So we have both soybean stubble as corn stalks here in the field. And I'm looking at this from the standpoint of saying that, there are things that we do or products that we use where it's possible to get immediate results and as well as get some instant satisfaction from the purchase decision that we made. And in other cases, the justification for our investment becomes a lot more apparent as time passes. I think 360 chain roll possesses both of those characteristics, and that's why, even though 360 chain roll is a product that's used during fall harvest, I'm suggesting that it's an important time for us to be evaluating what its impact is now that we are in our planting season as well as entering into our growing season. The delayed gratification part I mentioned a little bit ago really comes when you evaluate your fields, such as we're doing right now here, spring of 19. This is planted to corn. It was soybeans in 2018. It would have been corn in 2017. The corn head used in 17 was outfitted with 360 chain roll. And you can really begin to see how the crimping activity of 360 chain roll opened that material up and allowed air and water to get in so many different places along that material, as well as in that remaining stubble in the field, and that microbial activity kicked into high gear, accelerating the breakdown of organic matter. Fast breakdown of last season's crop material certainly improves the nutrient availability for this season's crop. When we compare residue from a crop that was harvested with OEM equipment, such as the field that I'm in right here, with 2018, this was corn harvested with an OEM style stalk roll, to that of residue harvested with 360 chain roll, we find that the release of potassium is twice as fast in a residue that was harvested with 360 chain roll. And when you think about even a 200 bushel environment, you're talking about residue that is tying up about 220 pounds of potassium, not to mention 90 pounds of nitrogen, probably 30 pounds of phosphorus. So if you take into account being in a 250 or a 300 bushel environment, you know that the tie-up of nutrients is pretty significant. The sooner we can access those nutrients, the better. In corn-on-corn environments, it's important to acknowledge the nitrogen penalty from high carbon levels that are binding up nitrogen. So getting microbial activity into those high carbon areas of the stalk improves the breakdown and nutrient release. Creating more surface area for microbes is key in getting those microbes through the tough stalk rind, like what chain roll does, helps speed this breakdown process. A soybean crop will use high levels of potassium at the R2 row stage. That's going to happen about early summer. So in a corn bean rotation, improving microbial activity on the stalks left by last year's corn crop can certainly help turn profitability in this year's soybean crop. Without assistance from us, residue left alone can be a fertility issue for up to 5 years. So spring planting and the summer growing season can be great times for us to evaluate crop residue left behind from last year's crop as well as the crops before. Monitor how the breakdown of that material proceeds throughout this spring as well as into this summer. And if possible, compare stalks in a nearby field where something other than 360 chain roll was used, so you can see the differences of what chain roll is delivering for you. And for those of you who were able to use 360 chain roll, say in 2017, consider how that residue looks in those fields now that you're 2 seasons removed from the time that chain roll was used.